Do have some communications. Introduction of bills, in fact. So let's introduce another Senate bill. How about that?
Senate Bill 3, Appropriations Adjustments, Senator Stevenson.
That bill, having been read a first time, I'm going to place that at the top of the second reading calendar. We're going to get it right at the top here. Hold on, Senator Stevenson. I'm going to read it in. We've got it on the top now. Senate Bill 3.
Senate Bill 3, Appropriations Adjustments, Senator Stevenson.
Senator Stevenson, and before you start, I'm going to ask that you suspend the rules for this bill. I think we suspended the rules for all House bills, but I'm just not sure what we did for Senate. So why don't we suspend the rules for this bill?
I would ask to suspend the rules, or move to suspend the rules on Senate Bill 3.
Thank you. A motion to suspend the rules for Senate Bill 3. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Or that motion passes. Now let's suspend the 3 reading requirement for Senate Bill 3.
And I'll also move that we suspend the 3 reading requirement on Senate Bill 3.
Thank you. A motion to suspend the 3 reading requirement for Senate Bill 3. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Or that motion passes. Now, Senator, to the bill.
I would move that we circle the bill until the other appropriations bill catch up with this.
Okay, thank you. Motion to circle. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Or that motion passes. The bill is circled. Let's work on some non-circled bills. House Joint Resolution 26.
House Joint Resolution 26, Joint Resolution on Transit Operator Safety Awareness, Senator Reby.
Senator Reby.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a great resolution that is honoring our transit workers. In the last couple of years, they have really stepped up to the plate during COVID and really showed up. And there's been a nationwide increase of assaults on our operators. And so this is a resolution to honor the work that they do and to try to reinforce how difficult some of their daily interactions are. And with that, I'm open for questions.
Thank you for that presentation, Senator Reby. There's no discussion on your bill. I'm going to go back to you for summation and a motion.
Thank you. I just want to tell you 2 stories to illustrate this point, and then I'll call the question. A few days before Christmas, an operator was assaulted while taking a break at the Mill Creek station. And then earlier that month, a cyclist yelled at an operator who said the bus had clipped his helmet and pushed the side view mirror. When the operator got out of the bus to fix it and talk to the cyclist, he was pushed to the ground, and the operator was taken to the hospital. So those are just 2 incidences. So with that, I call to question.
Thank you, Senator Reby. The question is, under suspension of the rules, shall House Joint Resolution 26 pass? Roll call vote.
Senators Anderegg, Bluen, Bramble, Buxton, Cullimore, Escamilla, Fillmore, Grover, Harper, Hinkins, Ipson, Senator Ipson, Johnson, Kennedy, Kwan, McKay, McKell, Milner, Owens, Pitcher, Plum, Reby, Sandel, Stevenson, Senator Stevenson, Thatcher, Vickers, Weiler,
Reby, no.
Wilson, Winterton, President Adams.
House Joint Resolution 26, having received 10 yea votes, 14 nay votes, 5 being absent, fails to pass and will be filed. House Bill 68.
House Bill 68, petition amendments. Senator Wilson.
Senator Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I do have a substitute that I need to move.
Go ahead. Motion to substitute's in order. Do you want to explain the substitute?
Yes, this second, the first substitute is due to the bill's sheer size and the number of sections of code it amends. It needed a lengthy coordination clause to ensure the bill's new language merged properly with other bills affecting the same section of code. Secondly, the provisions of the original HB 68 governing verification of voter registration and signature removal, which applies to all types of petitions, had been placed within the section of election code solely governing initiative and referendum petitions. This was confusing as a matter of legal drafting. This substitute is a technical cleanup, not a substantive change. The sub operates in the exact same manner and affects the same areas of code as the original version of HB 68. With that, Mr. President, I move that we delete title and body HB 68 and replace it with first substitute HB 68.
Thank you. I have a motion to delete title and body of House Bill 68 and replace it with first substitute House Bill 68. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Rule that motion passes. The first substitute's before us. Any further presentation, Senator?
Yes, Mr. President. Even though this is 119 pages, this really is a simple bill. This came out of the GovOps Interim Committee. It was unanimous. It was a committee bill. It creates a new section of the election code related to the process governing statewide and local initiative and referendum petitions. It's added provisions to the election code regarding how to verify the signature of a registered voter who signs a petition, as well as the process governing the removal of a signature from a petition. Notably, this second aspect of HB 68 applies to any type of petition in code, not just initiative and referendum petitions. Again, I mentioned this has been a committee bill. There was some concerns by the Eagle Forum when it came out, but they are now satisfied, and it's a good bill, and that should finish, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Senator Wilson. Seeing no discussion, I'm going to go back to you for action on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Under suspension of the rules, I move that HB 68 first substitute pass.
Thank you. And the question is, under suspension of the rules, shall first substitute House Bill 68 pass? Roll call vote.
Senators Andrigg, Bluen, Bramble, Buxton, Cullimore, Escamilla, Fillmore, Grover, Harper, Senator Harper, Hinkins, Ipson, Johnson, Kennedy, Kwan, McKay, McKell, Milner, Owens, Pitcher, Plum, Reeby, Sandel, Stevenson, Thatcher, Vickers, Weiler, Winterton, Wilson. President Adams.
Aye. First substitute House Bill 68, having received 27 yea votes, 0 nay votes, 2 being absent, passes this body and will be returned to the House for further consideration. First substitute House Bill 414.
First substitute House Bill 414, Records Management Amendments. Senator Fillmore.
Senator Fillmore.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Office of Legislative Research and General Counsel, as everybody on this floor knows, is home to some of the best researchers and attorneys that can be found in Utah. We're very pleased at the work they do, and they are really among the top in their profession. But their profession is not archivist. And so we kind of recognize in this bill that the Office of Legislative Research and General Counsel is an office for legal research and counsel. They're not an archivist. In fact, we have an archivist. So this bill charges the state archivist with the responsibility of maintaining a research library and to preserve legislative records, and for OLRGC to transfer those records to the state archivist.
Thank you, Senator Fillmore. I'm not seeing any discussion. To you for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. Under suspension of the rules, I move that first substitute House Bill 414 pass.
Thank you. And the question is, under suspension of the rules, shall first substitute House Bill 414 pass? Roll call vote.
Senators Anderegg, Bluen, Bramble, Buxton, Cullimore, Escamilla, Fillmore,
Aye.
Grover, Harper, Hinkins, Ibsen, Johnson, Kennedy, Kwan, McKay, McKell, Milner, Senator Milner, Owens, Pitcher, Plum, Reby, Sandel, Stevenson, Thatcher, Vickers, Weiler, Wilson, Winterton, Senator Sandel, President Adams.
Aye. First substitute House Bill 414, having received 28 yea votes, 0 nay votes, 1 being absent, passes this body, will be signed by the President and returned to the House for the signature of the Speaker. House Bill 151.
House Bill 151, Veteran Property Tax Revisions. Senator Buxton.
Senator Buxton.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill increases the amount of taxable value that a disabled veteran may exempt from his property tax. And with that, I'm open for questions.
Thank you for the presentation, Senator. Looking for discussion, not seeing any. Back to you for action on the bill.
Question.
The question is, under suspension of the rules, shall House Bill 151 pass? Roll call vote.
Senators Anderegg, Bluen, Senator Bluen, Senator Bluen, Bramble, Buxton,
Aye.
Cullimore, Escamilla, Fillmore, Senator Fillmore, Grover, Harper, Hinkins, Ibsen, Johnson, Kennedy, Kwan, McKay, McKell, Milner, Owens, Pitcher, Plum, Reby, Sandel, Stevenson, Thatcher, Vickers, Weiler, Wilson, Winterton, President Adams.
Aye. House Bill 151, having received 28 yea votes, 0 nay votes, 1 being absent, passes this body. Will be signed by the President, returned to the House for the signature of the Speaker. First substitute House Bill 398.
First substitute House Bill 398, Special Needs Opportunity Scholarship Program Amendments. Senator Fillmore.
Senator
Thank you.
Fillmore, go ahead.
Mr. President, I want to start out by saying that if any of you have the chance to floor sponsor bills from Representative Abbott, he will prepare you very well with a binder, with tabs for the fiscal note, the bill, the floor speech, the committee speech. He's very, very conscientious. Yeah, maybe his intern. So, to the bill, Mr. President. House Bill 398 fixes technical issues with the Special Needs Scholarship Program. I want to talk about some important changes that this makes. One, it makes this program consistent with other scholarship programs in the state in terms of use of funds and definitions and timelines. The second thing it does is recognizing that students with disabilities should not receive less funding than students without disabilities. So this addresses that disparity. And finally, it makes a technical change because there's a nonprofit scholarship granting organization here. Most nonprofits, as I'm sure we all realize, receive their donations in December. And that's well after the school year has started. So this organization receiving a lot of money in December that it cannot grant us scholarships the previous June, then we require them to return any excess money to the state. So this allows them to hold those donations for a longer period of time so they can be put to the use for which they were intended. Just making sure that the timelines for that match the actual calendar and how money typically flows to nonprofits.
Thank you. Senator Fillmore, it looks like there's a sub on this bill. Do you want to
Yes,
look at
the
sub?
substitute, yeah, thank you for reminding me, Mr. President. This substitute contains a coordinating clause with House Bill 477 so that it has consistent language regarding all-day kindergarten. So I'd like to move to delete and title and body first substitute House Bill 398, replace it with second substitute House Bill 398.
Thank you. The motion is to delete title and body of first substitute House Bill 398, replace it with second substitute, looks like, House Bill 398. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Vote of the motion passes. The bill is substituted. Any further presentation to the bill?
No, thank you, Mr. President.
Senator, I'm not seeing anybody up, so I'm going to go to you for a motion.
Thank you. I move that second substitute, House Bill 398, under suspension of the rules, be considered read for a second and third time and up for final passage.
Thank you. And the question is, shall second substitute House Bill 398 under suspension of the rules pass? Roll call vote.
Senators Anderegg, Bluen, Bramble, Buxton, Senator Buxton, Cullimore, Escamilla, Fillmore,
Aye.
Grover, Harper, Hinkins, Ibsen, Johnson, Kennedy, Kwan, McKay, McKell, Milner, Owens, Pitcher, Plum, Reeby, Sandel, Stevenson, Thatcher, Vickers, Weiler, Wilson, Winterton, Senator Kwan, President Adams.
Aye. Second substitute House Bill 398, having received 23 yea votes, 4 nay votes, 2 being absent, passes this body and will be returned to the House for further consideration. House Bill 556.
House Bill 556, Legislative Committee Staff Requirements. Senator Cullimore.
Senator Cullimore.
Thank you, President. This bill requires that if there's a legislative committee and legislative committee the committee requires legislators to be chairs, then that committee should be staffed by the Office of Legislative Research and General Counsel. It makes exceptions for committees already in place that have other staff except for one of the committees. And moving forward, the rest of the committees, unless designated by statute, will be staffed by the Office of Legislative Research.
Thank you for the presentation. There is no discussion. To you for a motion. Senator Cullimore.
I'll move that under suspension of the rules, HB 556 pass.
Thank you. And the question is, under suspension of the rules, shall House Bill 556 pass? Roll call vote.
Senators Anderegg, Bluen, Bramble, Buxton, Cullimore,
Aye.
Escamilla, Fillmore, Grover, Harper, Hinkins, Ibsen. Senator Ibsen. Senator Ibsen, your vote. Johnson, Kennedy, Kwan, McKay. Senator McKay. McKell, Milner, Owens, Pitcher, Plum, Reeby, Sandel, Stevenson, Thatcher, Vickers, Weiler, Senator Weiler. Senator Weiler, your vote. Wilson, Winterton, President Adams.
Aye. House Bill 556, having received 26 yea votes, 0 nay votes, 3 being absent, passes this body and will be signed by the President and returned to the House for the signature of the Speaker. Senator Harper.
Thank you. Under suspension of the rules, having voted on the prevailing side, I move that we reconsider our actions on second substitute House Bill 195, criminal investigations of school employees.
Senator Harper, I think just out of abundance of caution, let's make sure we suspend the rules to do this
Yeah,
first.
the motion was under suspension of the rules.
Well, let's suspend the rules. Let's make a motion to suspend the rules to reconsider our actions.
Okay. I'll move that we suspend our rules for reconsideration on this bill.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Roll that motion passes. Now to your motion.
Then under suspension of the rules, I move that we can reconsider our action on second substitute House Bill 195, criminal investigation of school employees, having voted on the prevailing side.
Do you have discussion to that motion? Seeing none, I'll place the motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Roll that motion passes. I do not believe we have the bill in our possession. Oh, we do. Okay. So let's see, that bill came from the second reading calendar, so I'm going to place that bill back on the top of the second reading calendar. Just going to wait for it to get in our possession first, but we have it. Let me call it second substitute House Bill 195.
Second substitute House Bill 195, criminal investigations of school employees. Senator McKay.
Senator McKay.
Thank you, President. Need to make a motion to amend.
Motion to amend, that's in order.
I'd like to move amendment number 1 for second substitute House Bill 195.
Thank you. We have Amendment 1 for House Bill 195, second substitute. Go ahead and explain the amendment.
Thank you very much. I think yesterday when we discussed this bill, we went through several, went through the debate section. There were no questions, and then all of a sudden there was it was summarily dismissed by the body, and we got feedback from those who voted against it, and what it came down to was fixing the presumption or fixing the requirement that it be paid leave and giving the local HR entities an option to make it unpaid leave should the individual not be deserving of that policy. So by making this amendment, we will incorporate those concerns and hopefully, I think, make this bill in a position where it's more acceptable to our local entities.
Thank you. Have a motion to amend. Not seeing discussion on it, so I'm going to place the motion. The motion is Amendment 1 in Senator McKay's name. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Roll that motion passes. The bill is amended. Senator, to the bill.
Thank you. Again, criminal investigations of school employees now gives local schools an option to gives an employee paid administrative leave, or if they can overcome a policy that they set at their level, that there is a rebuttable presumption that it's paid leave unless the local school board comes up with a separate policy that allows them to come up with a reason or a set of reasons why it might not be. What we found is that, especially in a couple of school districts, this is actually a live problem that they're having, and what we learned after the bill failed was that this will help a couple of local administrators make some changes to their existing policy and make a consistent state standard around this type of policy. And so I'm happy with that presentation, President, to yield for questions.
Thank you for that presentation. I've not seen discussion. Oh, yes, here's discussion. Senator Owens.
Thank you, President. Sponsor said he would yield to questions. The question is, what currently prevents a school board from adopting policy or enacting this? Why is this bill necessary? I'd like to understand that.
Senator McKay.
Thank you. Like I said, there are a couple of school districts right now that are struggling with this issue, and having this state standard as it relates to paid versus unpaid leave with allowance to make their unpaid leave rebuttable presumption, it does help build that bridge in these couple school districts that have some clear and present issues related to this problem. And so really this doesn't take away any local control, it just sets a standard for having paid leave be a statewide standard for criminal investigations with rebuttable presumptions related to it. And what we found, as it's described, is that one of the issues that comes up is that potentially the administrator is in a position where they are friends or have a friendly relationship with an individual whom they have to now lay off or have to put on administrative leave for one reason or another. And it puts the administrator in a tough position trying to make this decision, and they need this guidance really in this situation.
Owens, any follow-up?
Just a comment. Thank you for the answer and helping. It seems like often we hear from our school boards and districts that they want the local control and have the ability to make these policy changes, and it seems like they would already have this ability. And I believe this is to one school district, and so I have some questions with it, still pondering what to do on my vote. Thank you, President.
Thank you, Senator Owens. Senator Harper.
Thank you. I appreciate the House and the Senate sponsor of this bill, working with several of us to address the concerns. I reached out to one of my school districts, let me know that this was important to them because they think that they do have the authority, but they're not sure if they do, and they just asked for clarification so they're sure of their standing when they dealt with employee discipline and potential, action or termination. So I think this is a good clarification, and I'm supporting the bill now.
Thank you, Senator Harper. Looking for further discussion. Senator McKay, there is none. I'm going to go to you for summation and a motion.
Thank you. I think we've set a policy traditionally at the state level, and we've done this throughout, that protection of children is our #1 goal and our #1 objective when they're in our school environments. And putting children in a situation where there might be a question, or where a child is in a situation where they've been abused, or there's been an accusation and a criminal investigation related to someone that is committed a crime against a minor. I think in that situation, we are far better off for everyone to put a employee of the state in a timeout, so to speak. I know that everybody worries about, we all worry about that, balancing the local versus state control. And I think if you look at the consistency of treating this issue throughout the state, this might be one of those exceptions where we look at the policy and set that objective policy, but then allow local exceptions at the local level that they can then make rules to change that policy. And that desire to protect children who have been abused, and as we have seen, in fact, kids are more likely to be abused by a staff member at school than they are for there ever to be a school shooting. And so setting consistent standards around that, I think, is something very valuable. And for that, Mr. President, I yield the time and move that second substitute House Bill 195 as amended pass under suspension of the rules.
Thank you. And the question is, under suspension of the rules, shall second substitute House Bill 195 pass? Roll call vote.
Senators Anderegg, Bluen, Bramble, Buxton, Cullimore, Escamilla, Fillmore, Grover, Harper, Hinkins, Ibsen, Johnson, Kennedy, Kwan, McKay, McKell, Milner, Owens, Pitcher, Plum, Reby, Sandel, Stevenson, Thatcher, Vickers, Weiler. Wilson, Winterton, Senator Bramble, President Adams, Senator Pitcher, President Adams.
Aye. Second substitute House Bill 195, having received 13 yea votes, 14 nay votes, 2 being absent, fails to pass and will be returned to our staff for filing. House Bill 489.
House Bill 489, Educator Paid Professional Hours. Senator Milner.
Senator Escamilla.
Motion to circle, sponsors of the floor.
Motion to circle, sponsors off the floor. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Rule that motion passes. Senator, the bill is circled. Senator Escamilla.
Personal privilege, Mr. President.
Granted.
Oh, thank you. I have a special guest this evening, afternoon. I'm not sure what time it is yet, but it's a friend of both the president and other members of this.
A great friend.
A great friend. And this, my friend is a former state senator for Nevada, Mo Dennis, and he's also the former president pro tem and majority leader of the Nevada State Legislature. And I've known him for a long time, and he's also a member of the leadership of National Hispanic Council of State Legislators and NALEO. He's really an icon on the Hispanic Latino community, and he just happens to be here for a family event. And, you know, he decided to stop by and say hi, and we just want to welcome him to the Utah State Legislature.
Let's welcome Mo Dennis to the Senate. Thank you for being here. And Mo, I don't know if we
Yes.
go ahead. Any comments here, Senator Bramble?
I was surprised that Senator Escamilla didn't give him a proper introduction as first cousin to Marco Rubio.
He is first cousin to Marco. So Mo, would you come join me up here? Thank you. Great to have you here, and a fellow colleague from Nevada. Senator Harper, are you up at all? So let me just go ahead. The next bill is Second Substitute House Bill 348.
Second Substitute House Bill 348, Participation Waiver Amendments. Senator Kennedy.
Senator Kennedy. Well, Senator Vickers.
Motion to circle?
Motion to circle. All in favor say aye. Yeah, we're a little delayed there. Any opposed? I'll rule that motion passes. The bill is circled. Okay. First substitute House Bill 197.
First Substitute House Bill 197, Higher Education Financial Aid Amendments. Senator Grover.
Senator Grover.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. USHE, or the System of Higher Education, manages a bunch of scholarships. This bill specifically extends the needs-based Promise scholarships, awards from 2 years to the completion of the bachelor's degree. It also opens up the door for private donations to the Promise Scholarship. It permits the Board of Higher Education to name the scholarship after a donor. It allows dependents of the Promise Partner employees to receive those scholarships and expands the Veterans Tuition Gap Program. A fantastic bill.
Thank you, Senator Grover, for the presentation. Looking for discussion? There is no discussion. Going to you for action on the bill.
Yes, I'd move that First Substitute House Bill 197 pass.
Thank you. And the question is, shall First Substitute House Bill 197 pass? Roll call vote.
Senators Andrew.
Let me call that again. The question is, under suspension of the rules, shall First substitute Senate Bill 197 passed. Roll call vote.
Senators Anderegg, Bluen, Bramble, Buxton, Cullimore, Escamilla, Fillmore, Grover, Harper, Hinkins, Ibsen, Johnson, Kennedy, Kwan, McKay, McKell, Milner, Owens, Pitcher, Plum, Reeby, Sandel, Stevenson, Thatcher, Vickers, Weiler, Wilson, Winterton, President Adams.
Aye. First substitute House Bill 197 having received 25 yea votes, 0 nay votes, 3 being absent. First substitute House Bill 197 having received 26 yea votes, 0 nay votes, 3 being absent, passes this body and will be returned to the House for further consideration. Senator Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. President. Motion to encircle second substitute House Bill 348.
Thank you. Motion to encircle second substitute House Bill 348, participation waiver amendments. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Well, that motion passes. The bill is encircled. Senator Kennedy to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, second substitute House Bill 348 allows students and parents to opt out of school instruction that violates their religious beliefs or conscience and supports parents' primary role in the education of their children. And with that, I'm open to any questions that the body may have.
Thank you for that presentation. Senator, Senator Kwan, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. A question for the sponsor, please.
Senator Kennedy, will you yield?
Most definitely.
Go ahead, Senator Kwan.
Thank you. I'm wondering if this bill has any conflict with HCR 10, which we just passed. It's the concurrent resolution regarding the Pledge of Allegiance in schools. Now, in this resolution, it states that we would encourage the words under God, and I believe it also said we are not a country without God.
So, Senator Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. President, for that question. The answer is an individual, if it violates their religious tenets, and I am aware of at least one religion that has millions of members in our country that believes pledging allegiance to a symbol like the flag violates their religious tenets. And in fact, Senator Kwan, former Representative Kwan, this bill would protect that individual because of the constitutional right to exercise their religious tenets. And so, and I appreciate that question. It's one of the nuanced components of what makes the United States of America the greatest country in the history of the planet, and certainly on the world today, is that whether you're religious or not, or within the boundaries of religions which are so varied, and we had a conversation, it feels like 3 weeks ago, but it was just yesterday about this, is that we can get along peacefully because no one person, in the case of a teacher or principal in a school, can force another to violate their religious conscience because of the constitutional foundation of religion freedom, which I think is a beautiful reflection of how people should get along.
Thank you, Senator Kwan. Any further follow-up?
Thank you, Mr. President. I do support this bill. I do believe that it protects all of our religious freedoms and also those that don't subscribe to any particular religion. I think that is a very good reflection of our country. Thank you.
Thank you again, Senator Kennedy. I don't see any more discussion. I'll go to you for summation and a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate that from my senatorial colleague, that nuanced component of what this bill does. And with that, I'd encourage the body's support. And under suspension of the rules, move that second substitute House Bill 348 pass.
Thank you. And the question is, under suspension of the rules, shall second substitute House Bill 348 pass? Roll call vote.
Senators Anderegg, Bluen, Bramble, Buxton, Cullimore, Escamilla, Fillmore, Grover, Harper, Hinkins, Ibsen, Johnson, Kennedy, Kwan, McKay, McKell, Milner, Owens, Pitcher, Plum, Reby, Sandel, Stevenson, Thatcher, Vickers, Weiler, Wilson, Winterton, Senator Bluen, President Adams.
Aye. Second substitute House Bill 348, having received 27 yea votes, 0 nay votes, 2 being absent, passes this body and will be returned to the House for further consideration. First substitute House Bill 350.
First substitute House Bill 350, adoption modifications, Senator Weiler.
Senator Weiler.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a great cleanup bill that clarifies that when a child is placed by an adoption agency, it's the agency that's responsible for signing the fee disclosure rather than the birth parent. The bill also creates a process for an adoption attorney to request a copy of the adoption report to forward to the state of the child's birth if the kiddo is born out of state, to get a new birth certificate back faster. This would be applicable in cases like when the family needs a passport, et cetera. It just cuts out the middleman at the attorney's request. With that, I'll yield to any questions.
Senator Weiler, thank you for the presentation. There are no questions. I'll go to you for action on the bill.
Thank you. I would move under suspension of the rules that first substitute House Bill 350 pass.
Thank you. And the question is, under suspension of the rules, shall first substitute House Bill 350 pass? Roll call vote.
Senators Anderegg, Bluen, Bramble, Buxton, Cullimore, Senator Cullimore, Escamilla, Fillmore, Grover, Harper, Hinkins, Ibsen, Johnson, Kennedy, Kwan, McKay, McKell, Milner, Owens, Pitcher, Plum, Reby, Sandel, Stevenson, Senator Stevenson, Thatcher, Vickers, Weiler, Wilson, Winterton, President Adams.
Aye. First substitute House Bill 350, having received 26 yea votes, 0 nay votes, 3 being absent, passes this body, will be signed by the President and returned to the House for the signature of the Speaker. First substitute House Bill 475.
First substitute House Bill 475, communication credits requirements, Senator McKell.
Senator McKell.
Thank you, Mr. President Pro Tem. I do need to move an amendment or a substitute. It's a sub.
Go ahead. We have a motion to substitutes in order.
Thank you, Mr. President. So the motion to substitute, just so I can explain it, it's just a technical change in the language. They just did a rewording of the language, and you'll see that in the bill.
Okay, thank you. Do you have, seeing no discussion on the motion to substitute, I'll place the motion. The motion is to delete in title and body first substitute House Bill 475 and replace it with second substitute House Bill 475. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I vote the roll. That motion passes. The bill is substituted. Go ahead, Senator McKell.
Thank you, Mr. President. I was recently at a conference, and President Randall was actually quoted saying his students, when they arrive at the University of Utah, have 15,000 less in-person communications than students 20 years ago. This bill seeks to address some of that lack of communication in our high schools. I know this is a consensus bill, but it's an important bill that adds a half credit of communication in the curriculum to graduate, and that could be a course-like debate. I think it's a good bill. I think our students are lacking in communication skills now more than ever. With that, I'm happy to open up questions and would urge support.
Thank you, Senator McKell. Looking for discussion, Senator Fillmore.
Thank you, Mr. President. Would a school district have to provide a verbal communication course in order to comply with this? Or is this more permissive?
Senator
let
McKell,
me
will you
jump-
yield?
Yeah, I'll
And
yield.
go ahead, Senator McKell.
My understanding is they would. It would be part of the language credit, and up to half of that would have to be in communication. So it'd be a subcategory of language.
Thank you. Follow-up, Senator.
So up to half would have to be. Is there a lower limit on that? Could it be 1/10 of a credit? Could it be 0 credits? How, what, are we talking about like a quarter-long course? A section of an English course?
My understanding is it would be similar to 1 credit of debate. So you would take debate through a half credit of the year for half the year.
Thank you. Further discussion, Senator Owens.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. So there's wondering what would count towards this. Currently, there's so many credits towards a language art that would that be considered in communication, or also you have a business communications class that might be a technical ed class? I'm wondering what would count towards this for students to have flexibility.
Go ahead, Senator McKell. Well, you probably timed out. Sorry. Let me get you back on there, okay?
So as I talked to the House sponsor, the example he gave me was similar to a debate course. But I don't want to say for certain, but I would assume a communications course or a public speaking course, something that met that category. The example that was given to me was debate, but it feels like those other courses should be fine.
Thank you, Senator Owens. Seeing no further discussion, Senator McKell, action on the bill.
Thank you. I think it's a great bill. I'm not aware of any opposition as this has gone through the process. With that, I would move that House Bill 475 as substituted pass.
Thank you. And the question is, under suspension of the rules, shall second substitute House Bill 475 pass? Roll call vote.
Senators Anderegg, Bluen, Bramble, Buxton, Cullimore, Escamilla, Fillmore, Grover, Harper, Hinkins, Senator Hinkins, Senator Ipson, Johnson, Kennedy, Kwan, McKay, McKell, Milner, Owens, Pitcher, Plum, Reeby, Sandel, Stevenson, Thatcher, Vickers, Weiler, Wilson, Winterton, President Adams.
Aye. Second substitute House Bill 475, having received 27 yea votes, 0 nay votes, 2 being absent, passes this body and will be returned to the House for further consideration. Senator Cullimore.
Thank you, President. Motion to uncircle second substitute House Bill 507.
Thank you. Thank you. Motion to encircle second substitute House Bill 507, firearm possession revisions. All in favor say aye. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Roll that motion passes. The bill is encircled. Senator Cullimore.
Thank you. This bill deals with felons who cannot own guns. This bill would allow nonviolent felons can own a gun after 3 years out of prison. I expect there is an amendment to this, though, because there are some federal rules that require it be 7 years. So why are we doing this? Obviously, we believe it's a constitutional right. Just because someone is a felon, they shouldn't lose this constitutional right forever. And so there may be reasons for them to do this, to own guns, to protect their families, and for other reasons. We're hoping that the intent is that there's a reasonable time for them to reintegrate into society, demonstrate that they are good citizens, and restore their constitutional rights. This does exclude, though, felons that are violent felons. So if their conviction was for violent felonies, then they would be excluded from this bill.
Thank you. Discussion to the bill. Senator Pitcher.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to move third substitute in my name.
Thank you. The substitute's in order. Go ahead and explain the substitute.
Yeah, we had a great conversation about this bill in committee, and actually, as a committee, intended to make this amendment, but had some issues processing the amendment in time. What the amendment does is it changes the amount of years by which an individual would be considered a restricted person from 3 years to 7.
Go ahead, Senator Pitcher. Senator Cullimore to the motion to substitute.
This is a friendly motion based on the work of the committee and was expected.
Thank you. So, Senator Pitcher, any summation before I place the motion?
No summation, thank you.
Thank you. I'm seeing no discussion. I'm going to go ahead and place the motion. The motion is to delete in title and body second substitute House Bill 507 and replace it with third substitute Senate Bill, House Bill 507. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Rule that motion passes. The bill is substituted.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. There's also an amendment.
Thank you. So the motion to amend is in order. Senator Pitcher.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd also like to move the amendment in my name. I'll
Thank
speak to
you.
that.
You want to explain the amendment?
Yeah, it was explained to me by staff that there was a small part of the code at the bottom of the bill that was removed, and so this amendment just adds that back in.
Thank you. We have a motion to amend. Senator Cullimore to that motion to amend.
Yeah, again, friendly amendment.
Okay, so I'll place the amendment. The amendment is Amendment 1 in Senator Pitcher's name. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Rule that motion passes. The bill is amended. Now Senator Ipsen to the bill.
Thank you. Mr. President, how do you identify the type of felony it is? What's a severe penalty? How do you delineate that?
Thank you. Senator Cullimore.
Thank you. So a domestic violence offense that rises to the level of a violent felony. Convictions for multiple felonies would be violent, where rise to the level of not being eligible for this automatic. You can still petition the court for reinstatement of your constitutional rights. This bill makes it automatic, and it's just simply not automatic if the felony is aggravated as defined in this statute.
Thank you. Senator Cullimore, there is no further discussion. I'm going to go to you. Summation and a motion.
My motion is that under suspension of the rules, we pass third substitute House Bill 507.
Thank you. And the question is, under suspension of the rules, shall third substitute House Bill 507 pass? Roll call vote.
Senators Anderegg, Bluen, Bramble, Buxton, Cullimore, Escamilla, Fillmore, Grover, Harper, Hinkins, Ipsen, Johnson, Kennedy, Kwan, McKay, McKell, Milner,
Aye.
Owens, Pitcher, Plum, Reeby, Sandel, Stevenson, Thatcher, Vickers, Weiler, Wilson, Winterton, Senator Bluen, Senator Ipsen, President Adams.
Aye. Third substitute House Bill 507, having received 26 yea votes, 2 nay votes, 1 being absent, passes his body and will be returned to the House for further consideration. Senator Milner.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to encircle House Bill 489.
We have a motion to encircle House Bill 489, educator paid professional hours. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Or the motion passes. The bill is encircled. Senator Milner.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. So last year, we provided some educator paid professional days that they could use to do prep work, they could use for training, professional development, et cetera. The one thing that we did was we kind of tied it to an entire day. They're asking that in some cases it may be half day, not a full day. So all this bill does is allow the flexibility for a school district to be able to prorate that based on the time. With that, I'm open to questions.
Thank you, Senator Milner. Looking for questions on your bill? There are none. To you, I'm ready for a motion.
Call the question.
Thank you. And the question is, under suspension of the rules, shall House Bill 489 pass? Roll call vote.
Senators Anderegg, Bluen, Bramble, Buxton, Cullimore, Escamilla, Fillmore, Grover, Harper, Hinkins, Ibsen, Johnson, Kennedy, Kwan, McKay, McKell, Milner,
Aye.
Owens, Pitcher, Plum, Reeby, Sandel, Stevenson, Thatcher, Vickers, Weiler, Wilson, Winterton, President Adams.
Aye. House Bill 489, having received 27 yea votes, 0 nay votes, 2 being absent, passes this body and will be signed by the President and returned to the House for the signature of the Speaker. House Bill 140.
House Bill 140, Standard Response Protocol to Active Threats in Schools. Senator Wilson.
Senator Wilson. Hold it, your mic's on now. Go ahead, you're on.
Thank you, Mr. President. HB 140 requires the local school districts to define what constitutes an active threat and what is considered to be developmentally appropriate, and to implement developmentally appropriate emergency drills. The purpose of defining what is developmentally appropriate, what is appropriate for a 5-year-old, is different from what is appropriate for a 17-year-old. Earlier, we amended the bill, which had required the drills be conducted monthly, and took that out of the bill. This has been a consensus bill. We appreciate all the great support, and this has been unanimous to this point. With that, Mr. President, I'd be happy to answer any questions. Actually, we'll conclude my presentation.
Thank you for the presentation. Not seeing any discussion.
Thank you, Mr. President. Under suspension of the rules, I move that HB 140 pass.
Thank you. And the question is, under suspension of the rules, shall House Bill 140 pass? Roll call vote.
Senators Anderegg, Bluen, Bramble, Buxton, Cullimore, Escamilla, Fillmore, Grover, Harper, Hinkins, Ibsen, Johnson, Kennedy, Kwan, McKay, McKell, Milner, Owens, Pitcher, Plum, Reeby, Sandel, Stevenson, Thatcher, Vickers, Weiler, Senator Weiler, Wilson, Winterton, President Adams.
Aye. House Bill 140. House Bill 140, having received 27 yea votes, 0 nay votes, 2 being absent, passes this body and will be returned to the House for further consideration. We have communications.
Mr. President, the House refused to concur with the Senate amendments to force substitute House Bill 21, Open and Public Meetings Act amendments by Representative Briscoe, and requests the Senate recede from its amendments.
Thank you, Senator Andrigg.
Yes.
Need a motion to refuse to recede. I assume that you're going to do that.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion to refuse to recede from our amendments. Discussion, seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Or let motion passes. I'll appoint a committee consisting of Senator Andrigg, Buxton, and Plum to meet with a like committee from the House at 5:45 p.m. at the Senate rules. Plenty of time left.
I think it might be the House rules.
Oh, it says the Senate rules on my note.
Never mind.
So Senate rules. Okay. Thank you. Next bill up is Second Substitute House Bill 374.
Second Substitute House Bill 374, County Sheriff Amendments. Senator McKay.
Senator McKay.
Thank you, President. A while back, this legislative body created the ability to bind a bunch of local entities together and then allow those local entities to contract and create a special service district for providing law enforcement. Now, several years later, that bind created by statute has outlived its need, and the county sheriff's office in Salt Lake County favors removing this requirement or this bind by contract and by statute, and allows for everybody to seek other opportunities and work with and make the UPD and the county sheriff, maybe work together on contracting with some of the locals. But this bill is intended to restore local control and give opportunities for metro townships and others to make other decisions about law enforcement should they need to, or work closely with the county sheriff for that purpose. That's the basic purpose of the bill. From a list of supporters, it's supported by the law enforcement agencies, including the Sheriff's Agency, as well as all the local metro townships, as well as the Salt Lake County Sheriff's Office, who's currently the head of the UPD. And with that, Mr. President, I waive my time and yield to questions.
Thank you for the presentation. Senator McKay. No questions on the bill. I'm ready for a motion.
Thank you. I move that Second Substitute House Bill 374 pass.
Thank you.
Under suspension of the rules.
The question is, under suspension of the rules, shall Second Substitute House Bill 374 pass? Roll call vote.
Senators Andrigg, Bluen, Bramble, Senator Bramble, Senator Bramble, Buxton, Cullimore, Escamilla,
Mr. President. Oh, thank you.
Senator Escamilla, sorry. You're on.
Yeah, can I explain my vote if that's
Go
okay?
ahead, Senator Escamilla.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to be on, this is actually a really important bill taking place this session, and probably got more emails and texts. One of the bills I got more emails and texts out of the entire session. And it took me a minute to put some kind of like a historical timeline on what happened with this. And it takes it back to, I believe, 2010 maybe, 2011, or 2009. I mean, I was here. So it's scary because it's been a period of time where the legislature decided to engage on something that's truly not in our purview. It's the only county where we're inside and where this is happening. And I know changes are uncomfortable, and I know our law enforcement community has been put in a really odd situation with this. Those, especially the metro townships and the cities that contract with UDP, but I don't think that's the role of the state legislature to be inside. So I'm happy we're leaving that role. This bill will do that. It gives a 2-year window for Unified Police Department and those different townships and cities to engage in getting to a contractual agreement that satisfies their needs in an individual basis. And it allows for an elected official of the largest county in the state of Utah to be able to do her, in this case, her job or his job, but in this case, her job as sheriff. And really, we should not be in that business of telling the counties how to engage this process. So I know it's a difficult process. I know it's uncomfortable. We should not have been there from the beginning, and now we need to just get out. And with that, I'll be voting yes.
Senator Fillmore. Grover, Harper, Hinkins, Ibsen, Johnson. Senator Johnson. Kennedy, Kwan, McKay, McKell, Milner, Owens, Pitcher, Plum, Reby, Sandel, Stevenson, Senator Stevenson, Senator Thatcher, Vickers, Weiler, Wilson, Winterton, President Adams.
Aye. Second substitute House Bill 374, having received 22 yea votes, 5 nay votes, 2 being absent, passes this body, will be signed by the President and returned to the House for the signature of the Speaker. House Bill 458.
House Bill 458, Clean Fuel Vehicle Decal Amendments. Senator Harper.
Senator Harper.
Thank you. Previously, with clean fuel vehicles that could operate in the HOV lane, they had a special license plate and decal. We went through and repealed that a couple years ago, so they don't have it, but they have to have the clean fuel vehicle. This bill just clarifies the fact that you don't have to have that decal displayed, but you can have it in the vehicle if there's any question, and that's what it does.
Thank you. Thank you for that presentation, Senator Harper. Senator Kennedy to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. I do have a question on that, so I have to keep, if the sponsor would yield to a question, I think he's
Senator
agreed.
Harper, will you yield?
Yes.
Go ahead, Senator Kennedy.
So I have to keep the decal in my car, or I have to keep the documentation that goes along with my decal in the car?
Senator Harper.
Thank you for that question. You can do either one. Most people just keep the documentation.
Senator Kennedy, follow up?
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion? Seeing none, Senator Harper, summation and a motion.
Thank you. I'd waive summation and move under suspension of the rules that House Bill 458 pass.
Thank you. And the question is, under suspension of the rules, shall House Bill 458 pass? Roll call vote.
Senators Anderegg, Bluen, Bramble, Buxton, Cullimore, Escamilla, Fillmore, Grover, Harper,
Aye.
Hinkins, Ibsen, Senator Ibsen, Johnson, Kennedy, Kwan, McKay, McKell, Milner, Owens, Pitcher, Plum, Reby, Sandel, Stevenson, Thatcher, Vickers, Weiler, Wilson, Winterton, Senator Winterton, President Adams.
Aye. House Bill 458, having received 24 yea votes, 0 nay votes, 5 being absent, passes this body and will be signed by the President, returned to the House for the signature to the Speaker. Senator Reby.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to make a motion to suspend the rules to reconsider action on a bill.
I need the bill number.
HJR 26. Joint Resolution on Transit Operator Safety Awareness.
We have a motion to suspend the rules to reconsider action on House Joint Resolution 6. discussion to that motion? It's 26, House Joint Resolution 26. See no discussion, I'll place that motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I'll roll. The motion passes. Now for the motion to reconsider action, Senator.
Thank you.
We suspended the rules, so now I need a motion.
Thank you. I would move that we reconsider actions on House Joint Resolution on transit operating safety awareness.
Thank you. The motion is to reconsider actions on House Joint Resolution 26. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Roll. That motion passes. I assume we still have it in our possession. Assume we do. So I think it came off at the second reading calendar. I'm going to place it back on the Senate second reading calendar. We call the bill House Joint Resolution 6. Excuse me, House Joint Resolution 26.
House Joint Resolution 26, Joint Resolution on Transit Operator Safety Awareness. Senator Reby.
Senator Reby.
Thank you, Mr. President. There was a little misconceptions that this provided more protection or provided some other kind of changes. This is just a bill resolution that is making people aware that there's been a 46% increase in 5 years in transit assaults, and we're just telling them that they've done a good job. And with that, I call to question. Or I'm open for questions.
Well, open for questions. Senator McKell to the resolution.
Thank you. I appreciate this resolution. I was off the floor, didn't have a chance to vote for it, but support it. I think it's an important message to send.
Thank you. Seeing no other discussion, Senator Reby, summation?
Call to question.
Thank you. And the question is, under suspension of the rules, shall House Joint Resolution 26 pass? Roll call vote.
Senators Anderegg, Bluen, Bramble.
Senator Bramble.
You know, I appreciate resolutions. When you vote against the Pledge of Allegiance, it's hard to vote for transit. I vote no.
Senator Buxton, Cullimore, Escamilla, Fillmore, Grover, Harper, Hankins, Ibsen, Johnson, Kennedy, Kwan, McKay, McKell, Milner, Owens, Pitcher, Plum, Reby,
Aye.
Sandel, Stevenson, Thatcher, Vickers, Weiler, Wilson, Winterton, President Adams.
Aye. House Joint Resolution 26, having received 19 yea votes, 6 nay votes, 4 being absent, passes this body, will be signed by the President and returned to the House for the signature of the Speaker. Second substitute House Bill 127.
Second substitute House Bill 127, reauthorization of administrative rules. Senator Bramble.
Senator Bramble.
This is our annual rules reauthorization. What the substitute does...
Going to move the substitute first?
No, this is a substitute. We're on the second sub.
Okay, all right. Sorry, I thought you had a motion. Go ahead, sorry.
What this bill does, we had a rule that banned conversion therapy. That rule is not being reauthorized because we put in statute in House Bill 228 a statutory ban on conversion therapy, where this bill reauthorizes all of the other administrative rules. I'm open to questions.
Thank you, Senator Bramble. Annual reauthorization, there is no discussion. Going back to you for action on the bill.
Then, under suspension of the rules, I move that second substitute House Bill 127 be read second and third time and passed.
Thank you. And the question is, under suspension of the rules, shall second substitute House Bill 127 pass? Roll call vote.
Senators Anderegg, Bluen, Bramble, Buxton, Cullimore, Escamilla, Fillmore, Grover, Harper, Hinkins, Ipson, Johnson, Kennedy, Kwan, McKay, McKell, Milner, Owens, Senator Owens, Pitcher, Plum, Reby, Sandel, Stevenson, Thatcher, Vickers, Weiler, Wilson, Winterton. President Adams.
Aye. Second substitute House Bill 127, having received 26 yes votes, yea votes, 0 nay votes, 3 being absent, passes this body, will be signed by the President and returned to the House for the signature of the Speaker. First substitute House Bill 485.
First substitute House Bill 485, Restricted Persons Amendments. Senator Pitcher.
Senator Pitcher.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, a couple of years ago, we passed a law that states that if you are in a possession, if you're a restricted person because of a guilty plea for a firearm, the court had to notify you. This expands these practices to protective orders. If you're served with a protective order, the respondent has to receive that same type of notification. This will help so that people actually know they're restricted before they try to purchase firearms. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for the presentation, Senator Pitcher. Seeing no discussion on your bill, I'm going to go back to you for action on the bill.
Call the question.
Thank you. And the question is, under suspension of the rules, shall first substitute House Bill 485 pass? Roll call vote.
Senators Anderick, Bluen, Bramble, Buxton, Cullimore, Escamilla, Fillmore, Grover, Harper, Hinkins, Ipson, Johnson, Kennedy, Kwan, McKay, McKell, Milner, Owens, Pitcher,
Aye.
Plum,
Aye.
Reby, Sandel, Stevenson, Thatcher, Vickers, Weiler, Wilson, Winterton. President Adams.
Aye. First substitute House Bill 485, having received 25 yea votes, 0 nay votes, 4 being absent, passes this body and will be signed by the President and returned to the House for the signature of the Speaker. I'm going to do a personal privilege. I have 16 grandchildren. You don't want them all here introduced, but I've got another grandchild up here. Parker, stand up here. Parker Richards, I want you to welcome him to the Senate. Great to have him here. It's fun to have family members at the end, so hopefully he stays with us for a while, but fun to have our grandkids and family with us on this last night, so thank you. Second substitute, House Bill 429.
Second substitute House Bill 429, Pregnant and Postpartum Inmate Amendments. Senator Pitcher.
Back to you, Senator Pitcher.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill would do a few things. It restricts the use of restraints during the 3rd trimester and expands these restrictions to the county jails. These are for incarcerated inmates. It would allow the Department of Corrections to create a correctional facility nursery, and it requires state prison facilities and county jails to provide postpartum care for inmates who have recently given birth, as well as a reunification plan. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Senator Pitcher. There's an amendment. Do you want to run that, or is it one that you don't want to run?
Yes, I do need to run that amendment.
Okay, thank you. Amendment's in order. Do you want to explain the amendment?
Give me just a minute to pull it up.
Looks pretty simple, just changing one word.
That's what it does, Mr. President.
Department of Corrections. So you want to make that motion?
Please. That's my motion.
Okay, the motion is Amendment 1 in Senator Pitcher's name. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Roll that motion passes. The bill is amended. Does that conclude your presentation?
It does.
Do we have discussion? I've not seen discussion. Going back to you, I'll take a motion.
Call the question.
The question is, under suspension of the rules, Shall second substitute House Bill 429 pass? Roll call vote. Oh, there's a lot of activity going on in the back of the, is there any way you can do that in your, nope. That's a point of order. So I'll go to you for a point of order, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just wanted to pause for a second because it does have a fiscal note. It is in red on the board. We just need to clear that up.
Point of order, Senator Ibsen to that point.
LFA has said that the committee, the
Fiscal note.
yeah, I know the fiscal note. They will absorb it in the department.
So it's been cleared?
Been cleared.
That I vote aye.
Well, thank you. Remove that. We'll remove the point of order. Let's continue, and let me call it again, just to make it a little clearer. And the question is, under suspension of the rules, shall second substitute House Bill 429 pass? Roll call vote.
Senators Anderegg, Bluen, Bramble, Buxton, Cullimore, Escamilla, Fillmore, Grover, Harper, Hinkins, Ibsen, Johnson, Kennedy, Kwan, McKay, McKell, Milner, Senator Milner, Owens, Pitcher, Senator Pitcher. Senator Pitcher, your vote?
Aye.
Plum. Aye. Reby. Sandel. Stevenson. Thatcher. Vickers. Senator Vickers. Weiler. Wilson. Winterton. Reby. President Adams.
Aye. Second substitute House Bill 429 having received 23 yea votes, 0 nay votes, 6 being absent, passes this body and will be returned to the House for further consideration. Senator Stevenson.
Personal privilege,
Granted.
Mr. President. I have with me, I have a large flock of grandchildren, like 23. And we have a group of them here with us tonight. I'd like them to stand up. And I've got, could I have those that are behind the curtain, if they're close, come out? Anyway, many of you remember a few years ago, Hannah was my intern. And I don't know where she went. But anyway, she's here with us tonight. I'm sure you'll bump into her at dinner. But we've had, I'm grateful to have my family with me. I think we've got 6. Anyway, 6 of them here with us this evening. So I just want to introduce them. They're all fine young folks, and I think almost all of these are either in school. This young lady here is almost as Stevenson. She's very close. Right here, we think within 6 or 8 months. So we hope. But thank you very much.
Be careful with announcements. Anyway, let's welcome them here. Thanks again. Again, it's fun to have family here. Senator Stevenson. Senator, I wouldn't sit down because I'm going to go ahead and call one more bill here. Let's see if I can call. We're going to do the budget bill right now. What do you think? So why don't you make a motion and encircle Senate Bill?
I think we need to do that, and we need to encircle Senate Bill 3.
We got a conference. Yeah, let's wait for your conference committee for a minute. We have a motion to encircle Senate Bill 3, appropriations adjustments. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Roll that motion passes. Senator Stevenson to the bill.
Thank you very much. Colleagues, we have reached a very important part in our last 45-day session. This is the last budget bill of the session. It's the bill of bills. This bill appropriates the money for several big priorities, including debt reduction and an additional 2% increase in WPU value should voters remove the constitutional income tax earmark. The bill of bills also funds the fiscal impact of much of the legislation we have passed this session. Perhaps most importantly, the bill brings to our budget into balance between revenue sources and fiscal years. It adds $1.8 billion to our previous actions to the fiscal year 2024. It brings our fiscal year 2024 state budget from all sources to $29 billion. $15 billion of which is from the general and income tax funds. This bill is the capstone to our annual appropriations process, a process that this year we gave teachers a $6,000 raise, an increase in value of 6 plus WPU plus what we added. The WPU total comes to 18.5%. Prepaid $7.75 million in debt, provided nearly $250 million for housing and homelessness, funded almost $500 million in water projects, invested more than $1.5 billion in transportation and infrastructure, and cut income taxes, sales tax, property tax, and gas tax, returning almost $850 million a year to the citizens of Utah. My thanks to all of you serving on our Joint Appropriations Committee and its subcommittees. Congratulations on a job well done. And then I would like to take just a second and thank our LFA, the people that work for Jonathan and in his department. Without this, we would not be able to make this happen. We've had an incredible budgeting process. It's been difficult. It has been hard just because there is so much money that we have moved around. We saved so much last year that we moved into this year, and it's been a very difficult process. But thanks to all of you, we've been able to put things together. Our committees have worked well, and I think we've worked well with the House in accomplishing what we've done. So thank you very much, and congratulations. We've done it, and I guess technically we could probably go home after this, but Mr. President, that concludes the presentation of...
Before we open it up, as we open it up to discussion, I think we ought to give Senator Stevenson and Ibsen a great round of applause for their great work on the budget. Thank you very much. The largest budget in state history, record funding for education, record funding for infrastructure, record funding for water, and record funding for housing. And we could go on, but a great job. So I'm looking for a discussion. I'm not seeing any, so I'm going to go to you for a motion on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Under suspension of the rules, I would move that SB 3 pass.
Thank you. And the question is, under suspension of the rules, shall Senate Bill 3 pass? Roll call vote.
Senators Anderegg, Bluen, Bramble, Buxton, Cullimore, Escamilla, Fillmore, Grover, Harper, Hinkins, Ibsen, Johnson, Kennedy, Kwan, McKay,
Grover.
Aye.
Harper. Hinkins.
McKell,
Johnson. Kennedy. Kwan. McKay.
Senator Grover, if we could have you mute your mic.
Senator Grover, if you could mute.
Senator Milner, Owens, Pitcher, Plum, Reby, Sandel, Stevenson,
Aye.
Thatcher, Vickers, Weiler, Wilson, Winterton, President Adams.
Aye. Senate Bill 3, having received 25 yea votes, 0 nay votes, 4 being absent, passes this body and will be sent to the House for their consideration. Senator Vickers, I need a motion. I think that completes our work. Oh, before I take that motion, we have some communications from the House.
Mr. President, the House substituted and passed second substitute Senate Joint Resolution 9, Joint Rules Resolution Amendments to Joint Rules by Senator Fillmore. The House substituted and passed third substitute Senate Bill 158, Local Government Water Amendments by Senator McKell. and the House substituted and passed first substitute Senate Bill 293, expungement revisions by Senator Weiler. These have been transmitted back to the Senate for further consideration.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, thanks. Okay. Thanks.
Thank you. Those bills will be placed at the bottom of the concurrence calendar in the order read. Senator Vickers.
Thank you, Mr. President. Motion that the Senate recess until 7 p.m. for dinner.
Thank you. Motion to recess until 7 p.m. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Roll that motion passes. The Senate has recessed.